What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 2, season 3 of Culture 316. I am one of your hosts, Jordan Naheesi, and I'm with my homegirl
Producer
Mo.
Throat Coat, aka Mo. What's up?
You feel me? So we're gonna get right into it. The first thing that we had to address, obviously, that's been a major topic. John Laurinaitis has been quietly released from WWE amid the Vince McMahon sexual harassment allegations and the investigation pertaining to that. And another $5 million worth of payments has been linked to Vince McMahon, which totals about $20 million. I think the appropriate amount is actually $19.6 million. So I think the biggest takeaway from this is, do you think that this is the tip of the iceberg, or do you think that there is more to be discovered about this particular case?
When I was reading into it, man, like I do feel like one moment we do feel like we got everything out and
Yeah.
that it's coming to an end. And then it's just like there's more and more. I feel like we are gonna hear from either more people in the back or more women that are gonna come forward. I feel like it's not done yet. I really don't feel like it's gonna be done for about another year.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm happy that it happened.
Yeah.
Good riddance to the both of them, Vince
Yeah.
and John, because I feel like already we're seeing subtle changes in the product, and we can only move like in a positive direction from here.
Not just more changes in the product on a creative standpoint, but there seems to be a boost in integrity from a company ethical standpoint, right? Like I feel like one of the biggest things, in addition to, I think not just WWE, but any company, is striving to be ethical. And I feel like letting those guys go, and having Hunter in the back, who is someone who most of the talent feels comfortable with, is definitely a step in the right direction ethically, in addition to a boost to the creative product. But to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, I think that this is literally the tip of the iceberg. I feel like we haven't seen anything yet. I feel like $20 million is just the beginning. I feel like there's a lot of talent that may still be employed with WWE simply because they know things that the company does not want the public to know, and they want to keep them satisfied. But I think that this is a very, very, very interesting case, and I'm very, very intrigued to see kind of where it goes next. Because, yeah, like, and I'm just glad that we're not going to see the Bella Twins on WWE
Oh my
TV
gosh, I said that
on Twitter.
I literally said the same exact thing.
Dog, I was tired of these damn Bella Twin
And someone
returns
was trying
and
to make the argument that it had nothing to do with their push because they were on their way out in 2016 and that their mother got married to them around the same time frame. I'm like, no, it most definitely has everything
absolutely,
to do with it.
absolutely everything to do with it.
And I'm just so sick of the Bella twins. I don't feel like they were ever impactful. I feel like they were beyond them being attractive and being twins, they did nothing for me. Even when they debuted, they kind of just fell into the background and then out of nowhere, because I stopped watching wrestling at some point before I resumed, they're just in my face. And I'm just like, okay, well, did they get any better at anything?
All right.
And you hear their mic skills and it's stale. It's stale, it's choppy, it's awkward, there's no emotion behind anything they say, there's no the deflection of their voice or anything. And then their matches were very mediocre. Nikki was a little bit better than Brie, but their matches were very mediocre. I wasn't understanding the push, and I don't understand why they treat them like they're trailblazers for the women's division. I don't see what everyone else is seeing.
Right. What I will say is that they served as good foil for when the women's revolution happened, as far as Sasha and Team Bad being formed, and then team, what was it, PCB, where it was Paige, Charlotte, and Becky. I think they served as good foil, and I think that part of the reason why that era popped off the way that it did is because now the Bellas had something to contrast, something to go against, or I should say the other talent had something to go against in the Bella Twins. And I think that the contrast allowed for Paige, Charlotte, Becky, and Sasha really to pop and to stand out. And you know what I mean? So I think that that's their value, but I kind of agree with you as far as like the Bellas and their push and not really seeing that much in them. I was never really big into them as talents, and I think that it did definitely had a lot to do with relationships, because even when the Cena thing fell down, like between Cena and Nikki, it was like you didn't really hear a lot from Nikki, and then you started seeing like her like with the Ronda program, and it was like okay, and then after that, it was over. But like, but yeah, that was pretty much it. That was a really good little tidbit. Anyway, so going from WWE, it was also announced that All Elite Wrestling had a boost in their talent relations department. Tony Khan issued a press release saying that he was expanding the talent relations department with the promotion of Sanjay Dutt, QT Marshall, Pat Buck, and Tony Schiavone, as well as the addition of Madison Rayne as a coach for the women's division. She actually has been added at least temporarily as an in-ring talent as well. She's scheduled to somewhere down the line face Jade. So I just wanted to gather your thoughts on the promotion of these guys, the addition of Madison Rayne, and what do you think it does for AEW?
Well, my first thoughts when I was reading that was that I honestly think that just a little bit that Hunter applied a bit of pressure on these people because
Mm-hmm.
that was a big move. That was a bold move to
That
make.
that was.
Um, it was I think the biggest eyebrow raise was definitely Madison Rain being
Mm-hmm.
a coach for that division because from my knowledge, they didn't really have much organization or leadership back there with
Mm.
the women's division. From sources that I have spoken to, um, the females would kind of go about everything on their own. And this is, I guess, they believe in the beginning, wasn't Kenny Omega having a role with
Yes.
helping and organizing the women's storylines and
Yeah.
coaching them and stuff like that? And then he had to step back for whatever reason he chose to step back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he
Um,
definitely he was like a liaison, if you will, between like
yeah,
Tony and the women. So
yes, and I'm pointing that out just because don't get me wrong, in the beginning, I they didn't have a great women's division to start off with,
mm,
but there was a little bit of structure there in
right.
the beginning, just a
Yeah.
little bit. And then you notice when he left, the division kind of fell off, and you're kind of just watching as a viewer. You're just like, all right, what the fuck is going on? You
Yeah.
know, you could tell that when these females were getting on to cut their promos, like they were really just kind of going off the fly, and that these weren't planned out and that they weren't exactly working together properly. So
Right.
I'm happy that we have a veteran like Madison Rain, even I do find that her as a choice is a little bit random.
Mm,
I'm happy that there's someone there to provide them some leadership because I do feel like that's something that the division is definitely missing. They have a lot of good talent. They definitely signed a lot of people over the past year or two as far as females go. And I think they could definitely use someone that A is going to help the females who lack in promo cut much better promos because a lot of them they need help. They need all the help they need, child. Thunder Rose is one of them. And I love her. I love her. But she can get all the help that
oh
she
my
needs.
God.
And Madison's good with that. Mads also is damn good.
She's a good on the mic. Yeah.
Good on the mic, but she's very good in the ring.
Yeah.
You know, we remember all her feuds with Tara or Victoria.
Yeah.
You know, she
And
has
when
put
she was
on
part of
some
Beautiful People and all that, yeah, she was doing her damn
yes.
thing in
So she knows
TNA.
how to be a faction. She knows how to work solo. She knows how to cut promos, and she knows how to do various. She knows how to fit her role in various types of matches. So I do feel like I'm excited now because um the the women's division as far as AEW goes is not it's probably the least interesting part of the show. And
Mm,
I feel bad saying that as a woman myself. I
yeah.
should not feel this way,
Right.
but I do feel this way.
Mm. I agree with you on that. I'm gonna touch on Madison in a little bit,
Yeah.
but I would say the addition of Sanjay Dutt, well, the promotion of Sanjay and QT, I feel like in particular were two very interesting promotions. Pat Buck, Tony, I expected. Sanjay was a former producer in WWE, and QT Marshall, obviously, we know his ties to Cody Rhodes. And so Cody and QT are best friends. I think that QT has an eye for talent. He has an eye for developing talent. But I wonder if Tony promoted him because of his knowing his ties to Cody and figuring, well, if Cody's out the door, QT may follow suit, especially if, the environment in WWE is changing and Cody may have a little bit more flexibility considering his contract size, considering what he negotiated with WWE. So obviously these are all assumptions and speculations, but things like that make you wonder, like, is there anything more to these promotions than what meets the eye? As it pertains to Madison Rayne, I am very, very, very eager to see what changes that she makes on the women's division. Obviously, like you said, like the talent in the AEW women's division isn't necessarily bad. I think that they have a lot of great talent, but the division kind of lacks structure right now. The division kind of lacks that thing that pops, and it's worse because they have all the components of it that can make it great. Like you have somebody like a Jade, even like Kiera Hogan, Thunder Rosa, Tony Storm. Like you have all these really, really good talents, but it's like, improving and enhancing those talents, utilizing the talents that they have correctly. It's funny because when I'm very interested to see how Madison is going to function with the heels of the AEW women's division, because Madison has always been a really good heel. So I'm going to be paying attention to Jade moving forward. I'm going to be paying attention to Ty Conti, Anna Jay, because I feel like Ty and Anna, they were, I guess, cool as baby faces, but I feel like they're better as heels. I feel like these are two talents that can see a tremendous leap if they, if they get the right training, if they get the right guidance. So I'm definitely going to be paying attention to more of the heels of the women's division, because I think that that's Madison's specialty. And I feel like Madison can help them a great deal. Overall, though, I think in alignment with what you were saying, Hunter was applying pressure and Tony felt the heat and he knew that he had to do something. And I feel like this was a good step for him to take. And I think this is going to be good on AEW. Now, while we're on the topic of AEW, the Young Bucks celebrated their 18th anniversary as a tag team. And Matt Jackson had a very, very interesting comment that I'm going to read. Hopefully I can put it on the screen. It says, and to think if we never decided to do it, so many wrestlers would currently be unemployed. An entire genre of wrestling would never be created. The very way merchandise was sold would have never been revolutionized, and the economy of the industry would have never boomed the way it did. The most influential tag team of all time. Congrats. And then it started to make me wonder, are the Young Bucks the most influential tag team of all time? And at first I was like, nah, like there's so many other tag teams that you can say are influential. But then I had to think, are they just influential just in the ring? Or are they influential to wrestling as a whole? And I was like, shit, they may be the most influential tag team of all time. And to think, I've never seen a tag team or the way that a tag team functions inspire the beginning of an entire different company. Like, sure, like Kevin Nash and Scott Hall provided a boost to WCW, but they weren't a traditional tag team. You know what I mean? Like other guys were great tag teams that influenced the way that tag team wrestling in the ring occurred. So the Dudley Boys, Matt and Jeff, Christian and Edge. I know I'm blanking out on so many, Legion of Doom. There's so many tag teams that influence the in-ring style of tag team wrestling. But when you think about it, Pro Wrestling Tees got a big boost because of the Young Bucks, and that changed the way that merchandise was sold. AEW serves as a safe haven to a lot of tag teams that probably would not have gotten the push that they deserved in a place like a WWE or New Japan Pro Wrestling. Or part of the reason why they're getting a certain push in a certain company is so that they don't go to AEW, if that makes sense. I feel like there are a lot of, like with WWE, right? Now we're, especially with Hunter taking over, I feel like we're going to see a lot of tag teams get pushed because they don't want them going to another company and now they know how to properly utilize tag team wrestling. But you see guys like the Lucha Brothers, you see guys like Jurassic Express with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. It's like, I don't think that this would have flown in WWE. And so it got me thinking, like, these guys have been able to influence professional wrestling in a way that is palpable and that is tangible because they've created other employment opportunities for other tag teams. Obviously, the super kick is just one of the most used moves in pro wrestling today. And I feel like part of that is because of the Young Bucks. I think that well, Shawn Michaels number one, but
Yeah,
right after Shawn, it's the Young Bucks.
About to get on your ass.
No. I think Shawn made that. I feel like Shawn made that move what it is, but I feel like the Young Bucks kind of took it to another, especially with the super kick party and all these super kick spots. If you go on the indies, a lot of these super kick spots are very much inspired by Shawn and the Bucks. So I think that they may be the most influential. As crazy as it sounds, they may be the most influential tag team of all time because the way that they've wrestled has inspired, but also the career and business moves that they've made have shown other wrestlers, hey, you can thrive in independent wrestling as a tag team. You can sell merch as a tag team. You could be a bestseller. And we're also going to create this other form of company where other tag teams can go and have a spotlight put on them. Now, has every tag team gotten that? No, Proud and Powerful. But that's a different conversation for a different day. So moving on. So now that we are, I guess, a couple weeks post Hunter taking over, it's pretty much been 2 weeks since he's been in creative control. I wanted to know, how would you grade his first couple of weeks, and what were some of his biggest moves in WWE over the past 2 weeks?
I'm probably gonna give it a, if you're factoring NXT as well, I'm definitely giving it about a B minus. I say that because it still feels as though I am watching Vince's product, but I notice very subtle changes. Obviously some faces are being brought back that you could tell that Triple H was high on, that maybe Vince just didn't agree with.
Right.
One of them that was pretty controversial was Karrion Kross.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people dislike Karrion Kross because of what he does outside, but I'm focusing on Karrion Kross as the talent. And as a talent himself with Scarlett Bordeaux specifically as a unit, I actually love them. I was excited to see what they were going to accomplish in NXT. And of course, Vince got his dirty hands on it and kind of ruined them.
Yep.
So to see them come back, I was very much excited. And I was very excited that they made it a point to show that Scarlett is there and that she's present. You know, and of course they're injecting him immediately in a role with Roman Reigns, which goes to show you how strongly Hunter had to feel about Karrion Kross to set him up in a position immediately.
Right.
Like, to debut back again and to be set up with essentially your face of the company. Thought that was huge. That made me excited. You made an excellent point prior to us getting on about the cliffhangers.
Yeah.
And you can go ahead and expand on that.
Oh yeah. So there was a tweet, and it kind of had me thinking, which was that every show since Hunter took over has had some form of cliffhanger at the end of the show. Most recently, Monday Night Raw, we saw Dexter Lumis get arrested in the crowd. And by the way, I love the way that they did that. It was it didn't get too much camera time, but it got enough camera time because you saw people looking, you saw AJ looking, and then the commentators didn't really talk about it. It was just like, well, what? And then the hood comes off and it's Dexter. So you see that. Then you see the little car crashes backstage on Raw. Then you see, Kevin Owens kind of come back to his prize fighter gimmick. And then going back to SmackDown, you see obviously Karrion Kross at the end of the show. So every show that Hunter pretty much has done since he's taken over has had a cliffhanger. And I feel like that's very, very important when you're producing television, is saying, putting the audience in a position where they have to ask, what is next? What is going to happen next week? The next time there's a Raw, is Dexter going to formally come out? Is AJ going to confront him? Because we were all hopped up on AJ versus Ciampa, but now there's this totally different element, not to mention that it's in Cleveland. That's where Johnny Gargano's from. So it's like, is the way being reformed? Is Johnny next? Is this like, so there's so many questions, and there's so many cliffhangers, and there's so many ways to go. So
yeah, that's the best part about NXT 1.0. He always had despite the fact that it was only 1 hour that he could get in, there was constantly a plot and a B plot.
Yeah.
And you could never tell what was going to be the next move. Whereas with Vince, is very formulaic. You know exactly what's going to happen because it's the same tired ass shit for a course of 3 weeks before a pay-per-view. Just switch out the names or switch out the tag teams, whatever. But when it came to Triple H, like, he had about 5 or 6 things going on to keep your attention, and before like you could just like connect all the dots and be like, I got it, this is what's gonna happen. He literally would just give you a plot twist, which is what I love about him. Like, his brain is just
he's one of the best minds in the business, and I don't think that people talk about it enough. He's one of the best minds in the business. Another thing to add on to what you were saying, he makes everything feel important. Every title under NXT 1.0 felt big. North American title, NXT title, tag team titles, and the women's title. They all felt big, and they all felt important because there was a certain amount of time invested into each thing. You know what I mean? And sometimes it would slip your mind, and then it would come back around in like a promo or come back around in like a spot. And it's just like, oh, wait, I care about this. Like, this is big. So I definitely agree with you. Definitely agree with you on there for sure. We were talking about Hunter and grading his first week on a scale of A to F. I don't even think I gave my grade, but I think I'll give him a B plus. I think I'll give him a solid B plus. I'll give him a Daniel Bryan. Remember that whole thing when he was a B plus player? Hunter, that was a B plus 2 weeks. You get that.
Oh my God.
But we talked kind of briefly about it privately, and we kind of talked about it in the first week. Karrion Kross and Scarlett returned, and reports are saying that he is now going to be positioned as the number 2 heel behind Roman Reigns. I wanted to know your thoughts on that. I wanted to know how you felt about him being positioned as the number 2 heel, and more importantly, him being positioned in this major spot that he's being positioned in, because I think it's a big deal.
Oh yeah, I definitely do think it's a big deal because shit, I was panicking on what they were gonna do with Roman Reigns because he didn't set nobody up to be deserving. Vince sucks at doing that. He kind of dick rides one person to the end, and then after the storyline, there's like, what do you do? And then they freak out and they bring back Brock Lesnar, and I was sick of it. So now that we're past that, I'm actually very much happy that they're bringing back Karrion Kross.
Yeah.
I know I already commented on the Scarlett coming back, but can I just like,
yes, go off.
Comment? I just like love how the way they introduced her, because she just showed up with an hourglass and she just slammed it on the
mat
on top of the ring, and she just said, "Your time is ticking, bitch." Like,
time's almost up, nigga.
But that shit made me laugh so hard. I was just like, she's that girl.
Right.
She didn't have to say nothing, and she's just that girl. And that just made me excited, just because, again, I need them back as a unit. I feel like they help each other the same way Zelina was important to Andrade. That's exactly what Scarlett is to Karrion Kross. Okay, he's not the most intriguing person when he talks, but he does definitely turn it up when it's time to wrestle. And he has that look. He has that whole aesthetic. And he looks good next to a Roman Reigns. Like,
that's a fact.
Like that just on a piece of paper just looks very good.
Right.
I do believe he should be not like immediately champion, but he definitely I don't think he, in my personal opinion, with the way they had him set up in NXT already, that I didn't think he really had to climb up the ranks when he came to the main roster. I'm actually quite fine with him just being interjected right then and there, because that's the way he kind of deserved to be brought up the first go around.
Right.
And again, Vince fumbled the bag with this man. So I'm happy that Triple H is just like, you know what? Like here's like my apologies for you. Here's my gift to you. I'm gonna stick you next to Roman Reigns, and you just make me money, man. I feel like they are money. Their
Yeah,
entrance alone is money.
money.
Their whole presentation is money. You know, I thought you could definitely milk this feud for a few months if booked right. And you know, and Hunter's all about his long-term booking. Oh no, I was just saying their whole look is money, their whole presentation is money alone.
Yeah.
That whole look that they had going on NXT with the whole demonic looking gimmick, like
Yeah.
that alone, just for a regular NXT show, that looked like a WrestleMania entrance. Can you imagine
Can
what
you imagine the WrestleMania entrance?
that's what I was about to say. Because you know how Triple H and Stephanie be going the fuck off for their appearances. They only show up once every couple years now.
Right.
Imagine what they would invest into them if this is what they're already getting on
Right.
NXT. Again, that just goes to show you how much he's invested into this guy. So I'm just like, I'm super excited, even though I know everyone hates him because of his political views. Again, I'm not worried about that shit. I'm
Right.
worried about the wrestling here. I feel like I'm very much excited to see what they're going to do with them. Like I don't know. I'm elated. How about you?
I actually am elated as well. And here's why. I don't think, besides Brock Lesnar, maybe Cesaro, I haven't seen a guy that can realistically take out Roman Reigns. Like I can't think of an opponent that he's had where it's like, if they were to beat them for the title, it'll be like, oh, this makes sense. Possibly Drew at Clash of the Castle, but it's like Karrion makes sense.
Yeah.
And based on where Roman is right now, as far as his popularity, because he could go full on heel, but he could also go full on face. But regardless of where he falls on the spectrum, Cross can complement him perfectly. And so I think that one of the things you just have to keep in mind is the fact that Cross being positioned as the number 2 heel with Scarlett by his side, I think that it's what, like you said, it's a combination for money. I think that this can be a product of long-term, storytelling. I think that they can draw this out for a little bit before they actually put the belt on Karrion Cross. What I will say about the first time that he was brought up, I don't think that Vince fumbled the bag, because that would imply that he was oblivious or not conscious of what to do. He knew what he was doing. Vince wanted to like teach Hunter a lesson. He's very big on these pride games and stuff like that. So when he brought, Karrion Cross up the first time, I think it was just he wanted to play games and teach lessons, but it's like, dog, this
Well,
ain't the
what did he
time for that.
do?
Right? He didn't do anything. He just like made him lose to Jeff Hardy, which is just like, why would you even do that? But I
Didn't he
think he
have the
wanted
belt
to
too?
he wanted to prove a point, and he wanted to teach a lesson, but it's like, dog, all you're doing is driving away money, and you're driving away good talent. And that was the issue that I had with how Vince treated him before. But once, like you said, Cross with Scarlett, very much giving Andrade and Zelina vibes. And that actually just spurred something in my mind. Imagine if we saw Scarlett and Zelina in the ring.
Bitch. That's
Oh,
money.
that is money.
What?
I
Can you imagine just the promos alone
the promos alone
before
are
we
going to be
get there?
crazy, because Scarlett, and people don't talk about this enough. One of the reasons, and you could touch upon this a little bit more than I can, I believe that Scarlett, before she even came to WWE, was a very, very underrated in-ring competitor and a very, very good overall talent.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she has the look. Obviously she definitely knows how to draw ratings, as what we saw how what she pulled in Impact,
Yeah.
between just just her whole sex appeal thing, which that's another thing I actually wanted to touch upon too, because I was wondering again with this rating, what are they going to do with her and how far they're going to go with her, because
Sky's the limit.
yeah, when she got signed the first time, I think everyone thought, oh, like, WWE's going in a different direction,
Yeah.
because, we all know Scarlett for about one reason now, or at least the majority of us,
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know what they're gonna do with her with that. But her and Zelina, like, God, that would make me so happy. I love female managers and valets, I do, and I love the ones that definitely could turn the switch on and off between wrestling when needed. So it makes me mad now when I think about it that Zelina's just a regular in-ring competitor, because I would love to see her paired with Andrade and be able to see Karrion Cross versus him, and then see like a little B plot feud with
Scarlett
Scarlett
and
and
Zelina.
Zelina.
Yeah.
Like that could very much happen.
When you brought up Scarlett, For some reason, I don't know why this, but her sex appeal is very Sable-esque. And I just thought about that. It's very Sable-esque. And I was like, that's interesting. But I think that her in-ring talent obviously far surpasses her. But
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. She was useless. She was like the Lex Luger of fucking wrestling. Like, God.
God, not Lex. God, not
I'm
Lex.
sorry. Like they was both useless in the ring.
I mean, hey, that's a fact. But we got to move on. So we talked about Andrade and Zelina, and this actually segues perfectly into what we were going to talk about next, because obviously with Hunter's creative direction and Hunter's creative control over WWE, one of the biggest conversations on wrestling Twitter as well as the wrestling world has been who is going to come back to WWE. So actually, Mo was like, yo, we should both give 2 women, 2 men, and 2 tag teams. Was it you or was it Angie?
Probably
I
Angie.
think it was Angie. Shout out to my
Yeah.
little brother. Angie was like, yo, you should do 2 women, 2 men, and 2 tag teams that you would want to see come back to WWE. And because Mo's takes are better than mine, I'm just gonna
No,
start
yours
it.
are great. I kept changing my answers, not for nothing, but I'm gonna say all of them, even though we said two. I'm gonna be greedy right now. So, starting with the males, I want Bray Wyatt.
Jesus.
I think we all agree that he had he had such an amazing gimmick that
Mm-hmm.
had the capacity to just go into so many things and so many storylines and so many amazing matches. And of course, it fell into the hands of Vince, and it took a terrible dark turn. And we watched this man have one of the most inspiring, impactful. It was something that was like a little reminiscent of, yes, The Undertaker, without copying him, because it gave us that mythicalness that we haven't seen in a
Yes,
while,
absolutely.
and that's what made it super exciting. However, it wasn't something that was so gimmicky to the point that you didn't take it seriously and you couldn't mix it with real life. It was he definitely was able to make both worlds coexist.
Right.
So I think we're all both reasonably, not both, but all the fans were pissed with the booking of Bray. And then we were even
Mm-hmm.
more pissed when we saw that his gimmick was being copy and pasted onto Bliss. And then they didn't even know what to do with it once they kicked him to the curb,
Right.
So I feel as though he doesn't have to come back with that same gimmick. I mean, Bray Wyatt has a mind that is just as beautiful and just amazing as Triple H's. He has um he has all these amazing great ideas, and I know that if he were to come back, he definitely would reincarnate into something else.
Mm-hmm.
And working with Triple H directly, I do feel as though if he did bring him back, he deserves to be in the title picture immediately, in my personal
Mm-hmm.
opinion. um and just I don't know, I'm just very excited to just know what they would do if they were to bring Bray Wyatt back. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know who they would put him up against first, but I'm just very much excited for that. My second person I wanted to bring up was Adam Cole.
Woo.
I brought up Adam Cole mainly because I haven't cared about this man since he has departed from NXT.
Mm.
I don't hate his work in AEW. However, I don't feel like he's taken as seriously
Yeah.
in AEW. Um, I feel like Tony Khan has him there. He is in our face, yes, but he also prioritizes these goofy wrestlers. They aren't bad wrestlers. I don't dislike them, but he places him in feuds that kind of takes away the credibility of Adam Cole, because we
Yep.
took him very seriously in NXT. Then I just feel like in AEW, they started pairing him with like Orange Cassidy or whatnot. Or they had him just do these corny little things with like the best friends and stuff like that. And I was just like, okay, what's going on here? Like, what is going on here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this is not the Adam Cole that I remember. This is not the Adam Cole I remember going back and forth with fucking Gargano having all these 5-star classics. You know what I
Banger
mean?
rivalry.
This is
That.
not the Adam Cole that ended carrying Cross before he went to AEW, you know? So I feel as though he wanted to stay in WWE, but he just knew that so long as it was in Vince's hands, his career is not going to go anywhere. He's more than likely going to get released, probably solely off of his size and his look.
Yeah.
So I understand why he made the jump, but I do feel as though if he just had like a little sit down with Hunter, that we definitely could get our boy back, and that we could we could definitely bring out a little bit of what we saw in NXT 1.0 with his stuff with Johnny. We could probably take that and bring it to the main roster. I do feel like
Absolutely.
the main roster crowd should see that. They should be aware of the legacy of 1.0. And Hunter loves his callbacks. I
Mm-hmm.
would be so happy to see them do a little callback with the two of them and bring that to the main roster so everyone could actually appreciate why 1.0 was like the best of the three brands. So that's for the guys. And the third person I brought back that I just kind of just dabbled in there, John Morrison. Because I'm still pissed with the way that they presented this man.
Yeah.
I'm still pissed. Okay. I felt as though he should have debuted at the Royal Rumble. That would have been fire.
That would have been perfect.
If
As a surprise
his,
entrant.
That should have been our surprise entrance. Like, his theme song should have hit and we should have got the slow motion right there. That would have got a crazy pop. But they just kind of brought him in like he was just some regular. And it's just like, it's John fucking Morrison. And I'm thinking, okay, give it some time. Let it like, marinate a little bit. Maybe they got something planned. I mean, again, it's John fucking Morrison. He was pretty dope during his first run on WWE. Then he left on the indies and he just became this really big name. She's like, why would you bring in a name this big and then just make them feel like an afterthought?
Right.
So I kind of thought to myself, all right, maybe they're gonna like treat him the way they treated AJ Styles and he's gonna feel super duper important. No, they paired him with The Miz, and I like The Miz. It's just that, I like him a lot, but this is not what I wanted for Johnny. He didn't need to do that.
Right.
He didn't need that. He was talented on his own. He has put on some classics that has went over a lot of people's heads. He went against Matt Riddle, correct? And he had a match with AJ Styles that popped the fuck off.
Yeah, that went off.
We need to see more feuds like that with him. We need to see that man in his title picture. He definitely should have held the belt.
Yeah.
He definitely should not the mid-card belt. He should have held the world title belt.
Right. I agree with that.
After all of that work that he done put in the indies, it pissed me the fuck off. To see this man just be paired with The Miz. Cause I'm just like, no, he doesn't need that. He doesn't need the boost. You go through The Miz when like you kind of need that rub. Okay. Right. He didn't need that rub.
He didn't at all. At all.
He didn't.
His name was already solidified by the time he walked in the doors. Like, we knew who Johnny was. Like, and honestly, I didn't need to see another tag team. Maybe one tag team title run with them, but that's another story. Keep going though.
I
said maybe. I said maybe.
Okay.
I said maybe. It's a perhaps.
I don't need to see it at all. But you could go on with your 2 to 3 people since I cheated and added an extra person.
So my 2 guys were, number 1 was Andrade. I feel like now that Hunter is back in control, I feel like you can take the Andrade from NXT, copy and paste them onto the main roster, couple them, pair them with Selena, and they could just pick up from where they left off. And I think that it would go crazy. I honestly believe that Andrade in NXT was the best version of himself that we see him as a performer in any company, whether that was CMLL, whether that was WWE, whether that's AEW. I feel like the way that Hunter booked him, from literally being kind of like this, goofy party kind of character, not goofy, but like a playboy party character. Selena literally scooped him up from obscurity, turned him into a world champion within 3 to 4 months, and then was putting on bangers. His match versus Gargano is still one of my favorite matches in the past 10 years. So I feel like if we were able to get Andrade back, that would be a major good look for WWE, and him and Zelina can work. The dynamic that they had on NXT was very much main roster friendly. So there's that. The second person I was going to say was Buddy Matthews, or Buddy Murphy. Ooh. Reason being, I believe that Hunter only had but so much power in WWE by the time that when Buddy was in WWE. But I feel like one of the most underrated championship reigns was his Cruiserweight championship reign. He was putting on great matches. He defended it on his home turf in Australia. He has the look. He has the build. And I even saw a little bit of the potential, the work that he could have done when him and Alistair were going at it. And like the fact that was able to carry over into AEW shows you how important that work was. And so I think that if they kept or retained Buddy, I feel like, would he have been a world champion? Maybe, maybe not. Definitely a United States champion. definitely an Intercontinental Champion. You could have brought back the tag team that he had in NXT, and he could have been a tag team champion. I feel like he is a very, very versatile performer, very, very underrated performer. He was even pretty good on the mic when he got on the mic. And even if he didn't go on the mic, there are enough talents in WWE as far as, managerial talent that he can be paired with that can be his mouthpiece. But I feel like Buddy definitely has a place in WWE, and I think that he would be a good look if he were to return. So those are my two guys.
Oh, I agree. You just made me think of like this time period where everyone thought that Buddy Murphy was actually gonna get like a run. It was like I think in
Yes.
2019.
Yep.
He put on this really good match with Roman Reigns. It was
Roman
around the
Reigns,
point where
yeah.
I couldn't stand Roman Reigns so much that anytime he was on screen, like I just walked away because I was just sick of him. He was just shoved down our throats. But he put on such a good fucking match. I think it has to be Roman Reigns, like at least his top 5 best fucking matches he had in that company. Thanks to Buddy. Like that
Absolutely.
one match alone had a lot of people hopping on the Buddy train.
And can I, since you did a third person, can I add a third person?
Oh, of course. Go ahead.
Keith Lee. Keith Lee would be the third person that I would add back to
Oh, I
WWE.
want to steal your answer so badly.
You thought you was safe, nigga. Nah, I when it comes to Keith, I think that the allegation was like, oh, well, Vince told him to lose weight. He didn't lose weight. Gunther decided that he was going to lose weight, and now he's an Intercontinental Champion. Keith should have done what Gunther did. Keith shouldn't have to do what anybody else did to get where they needed to get to. And I feel like Keith is a phenomenal performer. His time in NXT, niggas forgot he was the first double champion. I think he was the first to hold the NXT and the North American title simultaneously. And like if Hunter can make him feel that much of a big deal in NXT, I feel like he would have been able to do wonders. And I don't think that Keith should have been forced to lose weight to have a push, because part of the reason why people were attracted to Keith Lee as a talent and as a performer is that he was the guy of his size and his stature doing the things that he was doing. I feel like if he was in a position where he, attempted to lose the
Added to
weight,
his charm.
right, it added to his charm. He's like he's like a teddy bear, like not a bear cat, a damn like a God, I hated that bear cat thing. I think he's just an athlete. I think he's just like an athletic, lovable, teddy bear-esque type of character, but he made it completely himself. But I just feel like if Hunter was able to do what he did with Keith in NXT, and he was able to kind of replicate that on the main roster, and had guys like Roman to go at, had guys like Karrion Kross to go at, I think that would be a great look for WWE.
I'm so stuck on the whole weight comic. I'm just like, if he would have had lost weight, then he would have blended in with everybody else.
Everybody else.
Like again, that was the appeal of him. When
Yeah.
I first saw him, I was like, okay, you got this big, tall black man. I don't know what he's going to do, but I'm assuming that he's gonna do strongman moves. And then he pulled out a fucking moonsault, and I was like,
and a clean one at that. A clean,
crisp,
crisp.
Bitch.
That was a 4K resolution moonsault. That wasn't no damn 480p. That was some crisp shit. Like I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But now I want to know your two women.
Just like if he. Oh, okay, yeah.
I was gonna say keep going, but I wanted to know your two women after.
I just love Keith Lee. I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good.
Two women. We're gonna have similar answers, so I'll let you expand on the second person. But I want Mickie James back. I want Mickie James back because I love what he did with her when he presented her with Asuka. He definitely brought Mickie James back in the right way, because in my eyes, she's definitely a legend. And I don't know why that when it comes to Vince, because I actually do put her on the same level as Trish and Lita. I absolutely do. And she definitely held it down during her own era, when she was basically at the Four Pillars with Beth, Michelle, Melina, and her. She went from that whole psychotic girl gimmick to showing us that she could be a serious in-ring competitor, and she makes an amazing baby face. So I love the way how Triple H brought her back with Asuka. That was a great match, a great feud, and I was just like super excited with her timing, with her coming onto the main roster, because I think that was around the time they were still like introducing those belts.
Yeah.
The the women's and then the SmackDown
The
women's
Raw and SmackDown women's titles. Yeah.
yeah. And I expected that Mickie James was definitely gonna hold it right in the beginning, and then they kind of just decided to stick her as a lackey with Alexa Bliss. And I was trying to understand their point of view. I'm like, all right, maybe just maybe they're trying to get Alexa a rub of some sort, but Mickey's gonna get her time. She's gonna get her shine, and I
Right.
just felt like she was treated like not only just like an afterthought, but she was just being constantly disrespected. Like
Right.
Mickey's not a lackey. She never been a fucking lackey. The closest we had was with Trish, but that was that was reasonable. She
She
was
was just coming
debuting.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, she had a character, to hold down. But the whole making her a lackey and then having her job out to mid carders, never letting her hold a belt, making all her feuds run nowhere. I don't think she had not one serious feud. It angered me, but what angered me more than anything is the way they allowed this woman to go out.
Mm,
They made her tap when she never actually tapped.
right.
And that was the last glimpse we got to see of a legend. And she has nothing, like, out of all those couple of years she was there, she had nothing to show for.
Right.
And again, this is a legend. Y'all would never do this to Trish.
Or
Y'all
Lita.
would never do this to Trish.
Or Lita.
Lita has gotten. I'm gonna be honest. We get into a whole argument about that because like they always treated Lita like the redheaded stepchild when it came to between her and Trish. But Mickie James, they done disrespected her, and that don't sit well in my spirit.
I
It
feel
does
that.
not sit well. I feel like she needs to come back, and she deserves. If the Bella Twins can come back and be treated like a fucking legend, then Mickie James most definitely deserves a second run. She deserves to have the title. She could elevate that title.
Absolutely.
Um, and I just feel like, again, this is to be a simple sit down with Hunter that could fix everything because he got the gift of gab just like with Vince McMahon when it comes to convincing people to do shit. I feel as though if she came back, she definitely could help out a lot of the females. But I do feel like she deserves to just have her moment. She can come back with her. She had to come back with her I don't know what you call her regular gimmick, but she came back with like the
Hardcore
country
country.
gimmick.
Yeah.
Yes, she would come back with that. I would adore that. I would actually adore that. So my first pick was Mickey, but my second pick was Ruby Riott. And I feel like we're gonna end up seeing the same thing. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna let you go right into that.
So one of my women was Ruby Riott. And the reason why is number one, I don't believe that AEW has utilized her correctly. I feel like when she started, it was kind of like, oh, she may win the world title, she may win the TNT title, and she didn't get either. And usually it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I don't mind seeing a woman lose, but I feel like losing builds character and it has to lead to something. So for her to like lose, only for her to be
Yes.
a dark regular is like very anticlimactic. Also, if we're talking about a WWE where hypothetically Sasha Banks and Naomi are in as a tag team, I feel like Ruby Riott is one of the perfect women to bring back because she can flex as a tag team competitor and a singles competitor. The Riot Squad was probably one of the most misused factions in WWE over the past 5 years. I will say that to my grave. I feel like they should have been women's tag team champions. I feel like, especially now with how Liv is holding the SmackDown Women's Championship and the reception she's been getting, Liv would probably more be accepted by the crowd as a tag team champion or one half of a women's tag team champion as opposed to being the top girl. And so by bringing Ruby back, you bring back someone who is a great singles competitor who could also work in a tag team that can add credibility to the tag teams and can actually help elevate that title if she were to hold that championship. So that's one of my reasons for Ruby Riott. And the second person is Ember Moon, pretty much for the same reasons for Ruby Riott. Are you gonna say something? Because I see it in your face. I know you're gonna say something.
Actually, now I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna go after.
So I feel like Ember. First of all, Ember Asuka, great rivalry in NXT. They had some great matches. Ember also, I think she was one of the first women to be a triple crown. I don't know if it's a triple crown because there aren't 3 women's belts in NXT, but she was the first woman to hold, I think, the women's tag team title as well as the the women's tag team title as well as the women's championship. And I think that says a lot about her versatility as a performer. She can be paired with Shotzi in a tag team. They can tag team, or she could go on a singles run. And I think that under Hunter's reign, she was just a phenomenal performer, a versatile performer. And I think that if she were to be used under this climate, she would have a lot more success than she previously did. So those were the 2 women. Now wanted to know the 2 tag teams that you would bring back to WWE.
Well, I definitely fell in love with Hit Row, and I think out of all the releases, that's the one that pissed me off the most.
Yeah.
I felt like at some point NXT was running a little bit dry, and when it was running a little bit dry, it was actually just like a breath of fresh air to have a little bit of urbanism being just, interjected into NXT with Hit Row. They were a faction that we haven't seen before. They didn't feel like they were a stereotypical gimmick. I feel like every time it comes to black folks being in the WWE, they're easily thrown the comedy gimmick, the dancer gimmick, or to just rap, But with Hit Row, they kind of had like this little thing going on where, yeah, they made music, but they was like a group and everyone had their own individual personalities.
Right.
I like the fact that it was probably like one of the few times you saw a faction that large that had a female involved, and the female just wasn't like a side character. Like a lot of times BFAB took over the promos.
Yeah, that's a fact.
She would like walk out and start talking shit. And I love the way she carried herself. She just had like this vibe to her. Like, was she the best in the ring? No, by no means. I think all her matches were bad. But if you gave her some time, she gave her some time. I do feel like you could definitely mold her into something, because one thing that she has that a lot of people don't have is that it factor. She just had a lot of charisma. She had a personality we haven't seen before, but a personality that you could definitely like see her pair with anybody else in the ring as far as a promo goes.
Absolutely.
And yeah, again, maybe she wasn't ready to wrestle yet in singles feuds, but she could very much be paired in maybe like a tag team, maybe until she does get that experience in the ring to handle it on her own. She could continue to be a valet and part of the group. I feel like there's a lot of things she could have done with BFAB, and it was just, we were just like getting to the tip of the iceberg on it before they got rid of her. I could see her with Bianca. I could see her with Zelina. I could see her with Sasha.
Yeah.
I could see her with a lot of different people just off of her personality alone. So I loved her. I love the rest of the group with Top Dollar. That was his ring name, AJ Francis. I loved the way he balanced with Swerve and with Adonis. I love the way that their whole entrance song went, how their entrance music was. I was very upset that they ended up cutting out BFAB when they got rid of her. But I feel like they brought something to the table we weren't used to seeing before. And I don't feel like I don't agree with the way they were brought out when they were on the main roster. They threw them with a tag team that we didn't really give a fuck about, which of course made the fans who aren't used to seeing them and what they presented in NXT going into the main roster. They didn't know what they was dealing with. They just saw 4 random black people talking shit and probably grouped them into being into the stereotypes, which kind of pissed me off. I think that's how Vince not group, that's how he visualized them.
Right.
He didn't see any value in them. And I feel like they've been putting in the work in the indies. I love everything they've been doing in the indies. And, a lot of people were saying that if they do come back, they do need a 4th person to replace Swerve. I think that they proved out on their own that they could hold it down and just be a 3-person faction. And they could pull the same thing as the New Day, where they could all go off their own things that they're chasing for, whether AJ and Adonis want to go for the tag team titles, or if they want to have AJ be like the leader and have him go for the world champion, the other person go for the mid-card champion, have BFAB chase for the women's world championship.
Right.
You know, there's so much you could do with them. So I want to see them back. I would love to see them back. My second choice, this one might be a little bit polarizing, but I actually enjoy the Iconics. Like in the beginning, I
Yeah, I
strongly
love them.
disliked them because I thought that they were out of place for what they were trying to accomplish with the women.
Yeah,
Because it was an era where we were very heavy on women's wrestling and just
absolutely.
bringing this woman. Yeah, we were trying to shy away from that that divas era touch, and I felt as though I didn't appreciate them until the very end, and then that's when they got snatched away from me. Out of the two, yes, Peyton was the better wrestler over Billy. But Billy definitely was the person that had all the charisma.
Absolutely.
And I didn't notice Billy's value until they had split them apart, and Peyton was supposed to get the rub. Billy was supposed to just be treated like another Dana Brooke or something. You
Yeah.
know, they had her just doing just bullshit things, and they put her in situations that no one else but Billy would have survived in. I mean, the headshot gimmick, no one else
No one
would
else
be
would have
able
made
to
that
work with
work.
that.
Yeah.
But Billy had me dying. She had me dying. Her delivery is just on point. She had that whole little thing she did in I think it was it the 2020 or the 2021 Royal Rumble where they had her come out with Jillian Hall and they literally created a thing immediately with the Jilly Billy thing.
Yeah.
That was good shit. No one would ever
No
have
one
thought to
would
put
have able to do that, right?
no one would ever have thought to put them both in the situation. First of all, back in Jillian Hall's day, nobody liked that bitch. But
It's a
Billy
fact.
Kay,
With the damn thing on the side of her head.
yes,
Yo.
yes. Between that and the Britney Spears gimmick where she couldn't sing for shit, all right,
Right.
nobody liked her.
That's a
But Billy
fact.
actually got her over to a point people were hashtagging Billy Jilly. Like she had that. She had that little it factor. And Peyton Royce, all right, she's one of those people where she needs someone to bounce off of to survive. But I do feel like together, I they were an actual. Well, first of all, they weren't a makeshift tag team. They were an actual tag team. They were
Right.
believable. They were likable. Um,
And entertaining as hell.
very entertaining, yes. They appealed to the diva stands that didn't want to let go of that era. They weren't the best wrestlers, but I do feel as though now that I look back at it, they did put respect on the tag team titles. So I
Absolutely.
believe they deserve a second run, and I do feel like they're too good to be wrestling where they're at. You had made an excellent point in messages prior where you were saying like once you just have that WWE
The polish.
stain to you, yeah,
Yeah.
polish to you that it's kind of it's kind of hard to unsee it. It feels like anytime you go to a smaller pond, it just feels as though like why are you here? Like like you're too good to be here. You should be doing more than this.
Right.
I don't think the person in the ring with you right now deserves to be feuding with you. I feel as though they should go back to the WWE. If they want to keep up with those tag team titles, they need to keep up with having tag teams that are actual tag teams and not people who are
Right.
just thrown together.
Absolutely.
So, if they're going to keep up with that and go about this tournament, I think it'd be kind of cool if they did like do another surprise debut and bring them back.
Right.
So those were my two. Sorry for that babble.
No, you are completely fine. And the funny thing is, it would have been cool if they had like in that little tag team bracket, they had like a blank or like a mystery team, and it was the Iconics. That would have
Yes,
been
yes,
nice.
that's what I was trying to go for.
But what I will, as far as my two tag teams, number one, and I'll start with this tag team because I don't want to say it's the less serious, but I want to save the best for last. So I would say number one would be the Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson. I feel like reason being, I know that they don't, or at least Anderson doesn't have the best relationship with Hunter, but I do believe that they probably would be utilized better under Hunter than they did with Vince. I feel like we would have been able to get that Bullet Club reunion that everyone, that all the indie marks would have loved to see between the Good Brothers, Finn and AJ. So I feel like there would have been a lot of value in that. I also just think that the Good Brothers they had tag team title reigns, but it felt underwhelming. It felt like they could have done more. And I feel like because Hunter actually likes tag team wrestling and understands what they've been able to accomplish outside of the Fed, they would have been able to get a bigger push, better opponents, and be put on a higher stage. So that's number one, and that's the Good Brothers. The second one is the Revival, or FTR, however you want to call them. First of all, I have to give respect and honor and credit where it's due. The Revival are on a run of a lifetime. IWGP tag team champions, Ring of Honor tag team champions, AAA tag team champions, and they've been having great matches for each set of belts. Their feud with the Briscoes is phenomenal. All of the matches that they've had in AEW have been great thus far. There have been opportunities where they've talked about pitching ideas to Vince and being rejected on certain things. For example, the idea came up of Randy Orton and the Revival being a faction. I think that was called FTRKO. And if that was a thing, ooh, like imagine like Randy comes back, wants to reunite with Riddle, and then he turns on Riddle, and his response is bringing on FTR as like
Gives
his
me the same vibes as Legacy.
right. It would have been like Randy's evolution, actually, because I feel like it would have been Randy's evolution.
Ooh,
Like I think
that's a
that would
good
have
name.
Randy's evolution, right? I'm trademarking that. That's gonna be
Yes,
we're gonna
yes,
merch
that
that.
hits.
But
Yes.
I think that like the ideas that they were pitching to WWE, I feel like they would have gone under Hunter. Like Hunter would have been able to be like, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's run with it. Let's go. And I think it would have been a big success. I feel like they've gotten to a point where they've pretty much done everything they wanted to do in tag team wrestling. And if they were to come back to WWE, it would really just be to have fun. And I think that I feel like if they're having fun, why not do a rated RKO? I think that would be great for the business. I think that would be great for them, great for Randy. Um, but yeah, I feel like the Revival would be an easy pick for me as far as a tag team that would return to WWE. Now, if they would want to go back, is a different story. But
Well,
going
do you
off of,
agree with the way they're being booked in AEW? Like, do you feel like they could be doing better?
I feel like they need to speed up the process on this Young Bucks FTR volume, whatever it is, because they've teased it. But I don't even know if it's happening anymore because the Bucks dropped the tag titles. But it's like if you're giving FTR this belt collector gimmick, let them collect belts. Like let them get the AEW tag team titles as well. Um, but I feel like that ship has sunk because the belts have already dropped from the Young Bucks. It would have made sense for them to beat the Bucks to win the AEW tag team titles, but now they're on Swerve and Keith Lee, and that's taking a totally different direction. And we'll see what happens with that. But I feel like they've been able to be booked pretty well, pretty strong. I've never seen FTR as like a non-serious tag team in AEW. And I feel like you could say that for their run on the main roster where there are times that they felt like a really jokey, but like two places that it hasn't happened is NXT and AEW. But yeah, I don't think that they've been booked poorly on AEW. I feel like it could be better, but I don't think that's bad at all.
Fair take. Fair take.
But going from that, something on Twitter happened pertaining to you, and it was something where you were talking about Naomi and Sasha, and I'm gonna make sure that I say his name correctly. JC Big Bambino 95 said, if you had a Ferrari, so what the original, I definitely wanted to make sure. So what was your original tweet?
Okay, so pretty sure everyone saw the convention, you know. The timeline was definitely all over the place when Sasha and Naomi came out, and I kind of predicted that definitely the fake love was going to be exposed with how people claim that they support both Sasha and Naomi when in actuality they mainly care for Sasha. They only care about Naomi in relation to Sasha because
Right.
if you in this situation, considering that they both walked out, yeah, people will side eye you if you don't mention Naomi. She's kind of like just thrown in over there. So
Right.
I made that a point. I made that a point that I noticed that there wasn't that many Naomi photos. There was hundreds and hundreds of Sasha photos, you know, and if you saw a Naomi photo, it was mainly because it was Sasha with Naomi with the fan.
Right.
And then I had a fellow follower that decided to give an excellent take that I wanted to share. I'm just gonna open it up right now. Just give me a moment. Got to scroll through all these DMs.
Golly.
Yeah, no.
That's a show within itself.
Right? We'll be
That's
here
a
all day.
show within itself.
I stated, I'm gonna be honest, I barely see Naomi pics being shared today. The person has stated, because it's called colorism. Naomi is a goddess in my eyes, and I think Sasha is fine. But when you saw when they had tag team titles, they kept showing Sasha more because they always think us being lighter skinned is more marketable, which is in fact black of all shapes and colors are marketable overall because y'all are the most copy people ever. Of course, there's a little bit of typos in there.
Yeah.
But still, you get the point. That individual that Jordan just called out decided to say, and you can go ahead and read that off.
And he said, if you had a Ferrari and a pickup truck, which one would you take to the car show? Jesus. Do you want to go first?
Comparing Naomi to a fucking pickup truck, son.
Right.
What? I just the whole tweet was to call out the colorism, and that's exactly what they just given me. It's just like I get it. I get it in the sense that, you know, in terms of mainstream popularity, Sasha is up here, Naomi maybe like a few steps behind, but in terms of just like describing them physically and saying that one's a Ferrari, one's a pickup truck, Naomi's a fucking goddess.
Right.
She's the baddest bitch in the entire roster in the last decade. I put her up there with Jackie. And Jackie's fine as hell.
Yeah.
Okay. That comment had pissed me the fuck off. And it's just like, Naomi constantly is getting shit on social media. Not just social media, just in general. She gets shit at her job with her placement, and she works her ass off. She definitely got the look. She keeps up with herself. She's constantly inventing herself over and over again. We have seen many gimmick changes with Naomi that all stuck with the crowd. And in her moveset, she's constantly always evolving with her moveset. She puts in the work, and in terms of how she gets booked, she gets booked either again like an afterthought or like any other mid-carder.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I know that she holds her tongue. She holds her tongue because of shit like this. She's aware. She's aware how the system works. How, yeah, typically if you're a lighter skin or if you have more European-like features, yeah, you're more likely to be marketable to the whites. Okay? And I know she holds her tongue. She holds her tongue between that and the people on the internet comparing her to a fucking gorilla.
Yeah.
And that shit gets me pissed off because it's just like she's a beautiful, all natural woman that takes care of herself. She don't bother nobody. She's not problematic. Name one time Naomi has been problematic.
Never.
She literally, I know she sees this shit because she engages with her fans all the time. She always does. You know what I mean? Like, she's such a sweetheart and she just absorbs everything and she just moves on and moves forward. And that's the part that also pissed me off during this hiatus thing because everyone's more focused on just Sasha. What about Naomi? Because this bitch is always going through hell. Always going through hell.
Always going through hell. And not to mention one of the most valuable people on the WWE roster. Not one of the most valuable women, not one of the most valuable men, one of the most valuable talents, period. The things that this woman has been able to accomplish over the past 10 years are astounding. This woman went from being cut from a WrestleMania 29 match to being the first Black woman to win a championship at WrestleMania. At WrestleMania, I believe it was 33. Like, one of the women who helped usher in this women's revolution by bringing Sasha on to Team Bad. And one of the most athletically gifted women, not to mention her Royal Rumble spots, not to mention the stuff that she's been able to do as a character and relate to women all over the world, to young Black women all over the world. When she had that Glow Championship and there was like a trend online where women were doing her entrance, young Black girls doing her entrance, Naomi's impact is so valuable and yet so immeasurable because so many young black women before Sasha and after Sasha were able to look at Naomi and say, this is the woman that makes me want to love and relate to wrestling or even be a wrestler. So the fact that she is this valuable and she is still, disrespected at the rate and on the level that she's disrespected at is just super unfortunate. But I feel like this is one of the reasons why I love wrestling, is because it's such a microcosm of real life, because that's the story of black women, how they are the most valuable, most valuable talents, most valuable employees, most valuable in their family, and they're constantly being in a position where they're being shit on. They're constantly being in a position where they're being disrespected, and it's unfortunate. And I feel like we got to do that now. I feel like we have to do better. Now, here's the reason why I have a problem with this reply of this tweet more than anything. This is Big Bambino, dog. You black. You a black man, bro. Come on. We got to do better as black men. We have to do better in protecting black women. Period. That's in WWE. That's in life. So I feel like there's some certain things you just need to, you either need to take it to God in prayer, or you need to just keep it in the drafts, brother. But I don't think that this is appropriate, because I feel like as black men, we need to do our job and we need to protect black women. And that includes when we come on Twitter and defend or talk about black women who are talents in the WWE.
It's so selective who I just feel like no matter what the fuck Sasha's going through, everybody and their mama's jumping up at her. But when it comes to, again, Naomi specifically, the only time I ever seen people jump for her was when that hashtag was going on, that, Naomi deserves better. I just felt
right.
I just feel like everyone just saw that and thought, oh, okay, I want to partake in this too. And they made it a thing temporarily, and she never got that push that she needed. And I feel like if the roles were swapped and it was with Sasha, again, literally everybody would have been jumping on that hashtag, and it would have just been like a temporary thing that would have lasted for a couple weeks. It would have been like a year-round thing. Like every time. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'll go a little bit deeper than that. Yes, Naomi does deserve better, right? She deserves better. But part of the reason why she didn't get better is because of the same mindset that you have, right? It's the same mindset that you have, just in the white men backstage. Like this whole, if you had a Ferrari and a pickup truck, there's men backstage in WWE who have that, yeah, she's the pickup truck. So, dog, the same mindset that you're carrying is what they're carrying. And that's the reason why Naomi hasn't gotten what she deserves, is because of mindsets like that and ignorance like that.
Colorism.
Yeah, colorism. But I was going to say, keep going, because I didn't want to cut you off.
Nah. It just got me annoyed, just because, again, like Sasha has taken multiple hiatuses and stuff like that. And even if she's on screen and she is in a title picture, she's not in the title picture, whatever, people are defending her night and day. Like her followers do not stop.
That's
and
a fact.
the actual, like, the true Naomi supporters are just like a small group that so small that I barely see them on the timeline. Like, I know that they're there because, like, I've seen some of them are my followers, but like the actual group of actual supporters that fight for Naomi is just so small, and it's just like, it just infuriates me because everyone's so selective in terms of when they want to fight for black women. Everyone always wants to say protect black women, black women. Y'all pick and choose which ones you want to fight for. If you're going to say that, stand on it.
Right.
Like, stand on it.
And don't just pick the ones that you like.
Yes, and I just feel like it's at a point where, again, this is probably the first time Naomi actually reacted, and maybe we don't know what went behind those closed doors. If it was something that Sasha did and she just followed through, or maybe Naomi did get fed up, and maybe because Sasha was in her backing, like, she felt the need to walk out too. But I just feel like she just harvests all this emotion, and she's gotten probably so used to it, she just accepted this is the way of life. And I would not want for her to feel that way. It actually pains me to think about it, the more I just like deep dive into it, that it's really at this point that she just accepted that this is just how the world is, and the world shouldn't be like this.
It shouldn't be like that.
As with the amount of events that we had occurred and the knowledge that we have and stuff like that, man, like, it shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't be 2022 and we're still trying to fight for the rights of dark-skinned women.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And that's a whole thing. We can go deep into that, but I think that we can.
Another hour.
Yeah, literally. and shit, we may do another hour just off of that, but we're gonna end the show here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for episode 2, season 3. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe wherever y'all are. Follow us on social media at Culture316. We have TikTok now. We're on the Clock app and things. So follow us at Culture316 Pod. Mo, do you have anything to say to close us out, or we good on that?
We definitely good on that. I'm hot right now just off that rant.
Thank you guys thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.